Harry, in John's Gospel, we learn that Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, and we're going to discover this concept in further detail today. So we find that in the Gospel of John, chapter 3, verse 14 and 15. It says, "Just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up, that everyone who believes may have eternal life in him."
For someone who's not very familiar with Christianity, the third chapter of John can be a challenge. Nicodemus was challenged to understand about being born again. Now Jesus is talking about Moses lifting up the snake in the wilderness. So the Son of Man also must be lifted up. What is the snake story? We'll get to that next. Jesus lifted up. Did that happen? Yes, on the cross, so that everyone who believes may have eternal life. That also sounds complex. Paul calls that the mystery of the gospel. Even today, when we believe on the one who is crucified and want his remedy, we receive life. Now back to Moses. Could you read Numbers 21, 4 to 9?
Sure, it says, "They traveled from Mount Hor along the road to the Red Sea to go around Edom. But the people grew impatient on the way. They spoke against God and against Moses and said, 'Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? There is no bread, there is no water, and we detest this miserable food.' Then the Lord sent venomous snakes among them. They bit the people, and many Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, 'We sinned when we spoke against the Lord and against you. Pray that the Lord will take the snakes away from us.' So Moses prayed for the people. The Lord said to Moses, 'Make a snake and put it up on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live.' So Moses made a bronze snake and put it up on a pole. Then when anyone was bitten by a snake and looked at the bronze snake, they lived."
Verse 4, they were going around Edom. The Edomites were their cousins. They were descendants of Esau, Jacob's brother. The Israelites were not to harm them as they traveled in the wilderness. Verse 5, the people grumbled about God and Moses, not smart. "We detest this miserable food," they said. What food? This is the manna God gave them from heaven daily for free. Really? Verse 6, God had an answer. "Don't like my holy manna you get daily? Then try some poisonous snakes." Many died. Verse 7, they got it. They went to Moses. "Please ask God to take away the snakes. We were wrong." And Moses prayed. Could you reread verse 8 and 9?
The Lord said to Moses, "Make a snake and put it up on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live." So Moses made a bronze snake and put it up on a pole. Then when anyone was bitten by a snake and looked at the bronze snake, they lived.
So God told Moses to make a replica snake and mount it on a pole. So when someone is bitten, they can go to see this symbol of evil in their encampment and know that its poisonous bite has been removed and live. That is what Moses did. God did not remove the snakes. He gave a remedy for the bite of the serpent to remove death from them. If they were bitten and stayed at home, they died in unbelief. If they went to look on God's gift through Moses, they lived. Back to John 3, Jesus would be lifted up on the pole. Those who stay home, they die in their sins. Those who go to Jesus by God's grace live eternally. So what became of that bronze snake on the pole? Could you read 2 Kings 18, 3 and 4 about what King Hezekiah did 800 years later?
He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, just as his father David had done. He removed the high places, smashed the sacred stones, and cut down the Asherah poles. He broke into pieces the bronze snake Moses had made, for up to that time the Israelites had been burning incense to it. It was called Nushtantan.
Hezekiah destroyed this life-giving snake symbol. It was now bringing death. The people were worshiping it. Hezekiah destroyed all the sacred stones and poles of the Baals and the Astoreth gods and this sacred god symbol. Most of us do not have Buddhas or Hindu shrines in our homes, but what about Christian shrines? We're not to worship them either. All our worship needs to go to God the Father, Jesus his Son. Him only shall you worship. Old Testament and New.
Okay, but Harry, what can we have some examples of things that would be like Christian shines, as you called it, that people may worship in society today?
Yeah, I don't know altogether, but for example, crucifixes, crosses, those kind of things are what that's replicas of our faith. But are we worshiping Jesus or are we worshiping the shrine? If they're maybe it's okay, but it's also what you call a security symbol.
Or yeah, good luck charm is another thing that
Yeah,
people use it
yeah, we
for.
got to be very, very careful about that. Those are, if that's what they are, they're not okay. We have to be very, very careful about that. That has really come really in the common world, very common now, but it's a worry. Think about it. Jesus needs our worship, not the shrines.
Amen. Thanks a lot for this, Harry.
Thank you.